The alien war drums shook the ground like thunder. The sky was dark, filled with the roar of thousands of voices. On the grand arena of Vorin Prime, an entire empire had gathered to watch what they believed would be a simple execution. And in the center of that blood-stained sand stood a human. Captain Jace Carter gripped the hilt of his blade, feeling the weight of 1,000 alien eyes burning into him. He wasn't supposed to be here. This duel was never about honor. It was a trap, a cruel show meant to humiliate his people. Opposite him stood the monster they called the God of War. A towering alien, 8 feet tall, plated with black armor, that shimmered under the harsh red sun. His 4 arms held a weapon so massive it could crush a tank. His name was Korath, a warrior worshipped as divine, undefeated in 100 duels. The crowd chanted his name like a storm. Korath, Korath, Korath. Jace's heart pounded, but his eyes stayed cold. If he lost, not only would he die, Earth would burn. The treaty on the table would be torn apart. Humanity would be nothing more than slaves to these giants. Voice boomed across the arena, amplified by alien tech. By the law of Dominion, combat will decide the fate of these worlds. To the victor glory eternal, to the weak oblivion. The gates slammed shut. Silence fell like a blade. Korath roared, the sound shaking the arena walls. He charged, swinging his colossal blade with enough force to shatter steel. The ground cracked under his feet. Jace moved. Fast. He ducked low, feeling the rush of air. As the blade missed his head by an inch, sand exploded where he had stood. The alien laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You are small. You are fragile. You will break. Jace didn't answer. Words were nothing here. Only survival mattered. He darted forward, slashing at the alien's side. Sparks flew as his blade scraped against armor. Not deep enough. Not. Yet Korath backhanded him with one massive arm. Pain exploded across Jace's ribs as he flew backward, crashing into the sand. The crowd roared with laughter. They smelled blood. They wanted the human broken, crushed into the dirt like an insect. Jace forced himself up, spitting red into the dust. His vision swam, but his mind burned clear. One mistake, and it's over. He remembered his training. Speed, precision, weakness. Points, not brute force. That was Korath's game. The alien lunged again, swinging with both hands this time. Jace rolled aside, letting the heavy blade bury itself in the sand. Before Korath could pull it free, Jace struck. He drove his blade into the gap between plates near the alien's thigh. A roar of pain split the air. The crowd gasped. The God of War had bled. Korath ripped his weapon free and swung wildly, rage twisting his monstrous face. Jace barely avoided. The strike, sand and blood sprang around him. You dare. Korath bellowed, charging like a beast. Jace ran not away, but toward him. At the last second, he slid under the alien's legs, slicing deep into the back of his knee. Korath crashed to one knee, howling in fury. The human didn't hesitate. He climbed the alien's back like a shadow, driving his blade between the thick neck plates. Sparks flew. Blood sprayed hot against his hands. The alien thrashed, grabbing for him, but Jace held on. He twisted the blade with all his strength. There was a sickening crack. Korath roared one last time, a sound of pain and disbelief before collapsing face first into the sand, shaking the ground like a falling mountain. Silence. For one long heartbeat, the galaxy seemed to stop. Then, the screams began. The alien crowd shrieked in shock and rage. This had never happened. Their God of War was dead, killed by a single human. Jace stumbled to his feet, his body trembling, his blade dripping alien blood. His lungs burned, but he stood tall. Across the arena, The High Priestess of Vorn rose from her seat. Draped in shimmering silver, her eyes glowed like molten gold as she stepped forward. Her voice carried over the chaos like a whisper from the stars. "By our sacred law," she said, every word echoing with power, "the one who slays the god of war becomes master of the eternal order." The arena fell silent again. The priestesses, 12 of them, draped in flowing robes, stepped forward and knelt in the blood-stained sand before Jace. One raised her head and looked into his eyes. Her voice was soft, but heavy with fate. "You have won us, human. We are yours forever." Jace's grip on his blade tightened. His heart thundered in his chest. He didn't come here for this. He wanted peace, not power. But the law didn't care what he wanted. To refuse them was death. And somewhere above, the alien nobles were already planning how to kill him. Asterisk, as the priestess bows, her whisper chills him. "If you reject us, you die by dawn." Asterisk, the whisper cut through Jace like a blade. "If you reject us, you die by dawn." He didn't even have time to answer before the arena gates slammed open. Alien guards stormed in-armored giants, with obsidian spears forming a circle around him. Their glowing eyes were full of hate, but none dared strike. The law bound them, just as it now bound him. The High Priestess raised her hand, and then chaos fell into silence. Her robe shimmered like liquid moonlight as she spoke in a voice cold as the void. "Take the human to the sanctum. Prepare the rite of dominion." The crowd erupted in fury. Voices thundered across the arena. "He is unworthy. Spill his blood. Break the law." Jace's heart pounded. He wanted to fight, to run, but his body was too battered. The guards seized him, not roughly, but with a strange reverence, and dragged him through golden gates, into a vast hall glowing with alien fire. The sanctum was unlike anything he had ever seen. Giant pillars of black stone rose into infinity, etched with symbols that pulsed like living veins. The air smelled of incense and blood. He was thrown onto a marble floor. Before him, 12 alien priestesses knelt in perfect formation, their robes flowing like rivers of silver. Their faces were hidden behind crystal masks, but their voices were one when they spoke. Champion of the law, bearer of dominion. You own what was his, and more. Jace struggled to his feet. "I don't want this. I didn't come here for slaves." The High Priestess removed her mask. Her face was sharp, beautiful in an otherworldly way, her skin glowing faintly like starlight. Her golden eyes locked on his, unblinking. "Slaves? No, human, we are not slaves. We are the eternal order. We serve the victor of the dominion. It is the oldest law of our kind." Her voice hardened. "And to refuse that law is death." Jace clenched his fists. "Then kill me, because I will never own another person." The priestesses exchanged glances, their voices soft but trembling, shocked by his defiance. No victor in history had ever rejected them. The High Priestess stepped closer, her presence cold as the grave. "You misunderstand. You do not own. You as things, you command us as shields, as voices, as fire. We are the soul of this empire. With us comes power beyond kings, or doom beyond death." Jace stared at her. "What if I walk away?" Her answer was ice. "You won't make it. Past the gates. The nobles already plot your murder. If you live, it is because we guard you. If you die, your world burns." The words hit him like gunfire. Earth, his people. He had fought to save them. He couldn't let it all fall apart now. Jace's voice was low. "So what happens now?" The High Priestess smiled, slow and sharp. "Now, we bind you to the law. And then, we see if you survive the first night." 2 guards opened massive bronze doors behind her, revealing a chamber bathed in crimson light. Alien glyphs glowed on the walls. In the center was a bed carved from black crystal, big enough for a giant. Jace stiffened. What is this? The High Priestess tilted her head. The right of dominion. To claim victory, you must accept the bond. Tonight, you do not sleep alone. The other priestesses lowered their heads in perfect silence. Shadows danced across the walls as the crimson glow deepened, turning the air heavy and warm. Jace felt his throat tighten. He had fought wars, killed monsters, faced death, but this was something else. This was politics wrapped in ritual, power wrapped in intimacy. He took a step back. No, this is insane. The priestess cut him off, her voice soft as silk but sharp as a knife. Deny the bond, and the nobles will cut your throat before dawn. Accept it, and you live to fight another day. Behind her, the masked priestesses rose in unison, their silver robes whispering like ghostly wings. They began to walk toward him, one step at a time, their eyes burning through the crystal masks. Jace's pulse pounded in his ears. The gates closed behind him with a sound like a tomb sealing shut. He had no weapon, no way out, and 12 alien priestesses were closing in. Asterisk. The High Priestess's voice drifted through the air like poison and honey. Choose, human. Will you embrace the law or let the dawn drink your blood? The bronze doors slammed shut with a sound that echoed like a death bell. Jace stood in the crimson chamber, heart pounding, while 12 masked priestesses formed a silent circle around him. Their silver robes shimmered in the red glow, whispering against the floor as they moved in perfect unison. Above, alien glyphs burned on the walls like watching eyes. The air was heavy with incense sweet, sharp and strange, clinging to his skin. Every breath tasted like fire and ash. The High Priestess stepped forward. She had removed her mask earlier. Her face was all sharp lines and starlight, her golden eyes glowing like molten metal. Her voice was smooth and calm, but carried the weight of an empire. You stand where no human has stood. You hold the law of our kind in your hands. Tonight, that law will bind or break you. Jace kept his eyes on her. I told you already I didn't come here for this. I fought to end a war, not to claim anyone. She tilted her head slightly, as if studying a rare animal. And yet here you are. Do you think the law bends for your human heart? No, the law devours the weak. Accept the bond, or the nobles will carve your name into the stones of the dead before dawn. Before Jace could answer, the circle moved. The priestesses began to hum a low, haunting sound that filled the chamber like the pull of deep water. The crimson light seemed to pulse in time with their voices. Shadows lengthened, twisting across the walls like living things. Jace's instincts screamed danger. He took a step back, his fists clenched. What are you doing? The High Priestess spoke without moving her lips, her voice like silk and steel in his mind. The right of dominion begins. To survive, you must accept what comes next. Then the first priestess lowered her mask. Her face was pale as moonlight, her eyes black, pools that seemed to drink the glow around them. She stepped forward slowly, lifting her hands delicate, yet marked with glowing runes that throbbed with power. Jace froze. She wasn't reaching for his weapon. She was reaching for him. No, he said sharply, backing up until his shoulders hit the cold crystal wall. This isn't happening. The High Priestess's eyes flared like fire. Refuse us, and you die. Not by our hands, by theirs. She flicked her gaze toward the sealed doors. From beyond came a sound that made Jace's blood run cold. The distant clash of steel, the muffled roar of alien voices. War drums. Jace stiffened. What's going on out there? The High Priestess's voice was calm, almost bored. The nobles. They have come to kill you. They cannot break the law within these walls. But if you step outside without the bond, you are nothing but prey. Jace's pulse thundered in his ears. This wasn't just ritual. It was survival. The priestesses weren't seducing him. They were shielding him in the only way their world. Understood. Another boom shook the chamber. The doors trembled under a heavy strike. Someone was trying to break in. The priestess closest to him spoke softly, her voice like music through the chaos. Let us bind you, human. Let us make you ours, before they tear you apart. Jace hesitated for a heartbeat too long. The bronze doors exploded inward. Aliens in black ore armor stormed through, their weapons glowing like molten suns. The nobles had broken the law. They didn't care. Their voices were a storm of hate. Kill him. Spill the human's blood. Jace dived for the fallen ceremonial spear near the altar. The first assassin swung a blade the size of a car door. Jace rolled, came up fast, and drove the spear into the alien's throat. Blood sprayed. Hot across the floor. Shields. Form the circle. The high priestess commanded. The priestesses dropped their masks and robes in one motion, revealing armor of silver and black, etched with burning runes. Hidden blades slid into their hands. They moved like shadows made of steel, silent, lethal. Unstoppable. Jace's mind reeled. These weren't just temple maidens. They were killers, guardians. The chamber became a war zone. Blades clashed, sparks flew. Shadows danced on blood-slick marble. Jace fought beside them, his muscles screaming, his lungs on fire. The high priestess appeared at his side, her twin blades flashing like liquid light. Now you see the truth, human, she hissed as her blade cut down an attacker. You are not their prisoner. You are their prize. Another alien lunged at Jace. He twisted, slammed his spear through the enemy's chest, and roared as blood poured over his arms. But for every foe they killed, more poured through the shattered doors. They were outnumbered. The air reeked of smoke and burning flesh. The high priestess's voice cut through the chaos. The bond, Jace. Say the words or we all die. She held out her blood-stained hand, eyes blazing like suns. Claim us, and the law will bind our blades to your life. Refuse, and your world burns. Jace stood frozen, chest heaving, blood dripping from his hands. Behind him, another priestess fell with a cry. The nobles roared in triumph, closing in like wolves. And in that moment, with death all around him, Jace realized the truth. This was no choice at all. Jace gripped her hand, and the chamber exploded with light so bright it burned the shadows from the walls. But what price had he just paid? The light was blinding. Jace's vision burned white, his ears ringing like shattered glass. For one terrible moment, he thought. He was dead then. The light collapsed inward, folding like a storm into the high priestess's outstretched hand. Her golden eyes glowed brighter than fire. Around her, the priestesses rose from their knees, silver armor blazing with living runes. The air cracked with energy, turning every breath into lightning. The bond had been sealed .jac. He didn't know what it meant. He only knew this. The assassins had stopped laughing. They had seen the glow. They knew the law was real, but the nobles didn't care. Hate made them blind. They surged forward in a tide of black armor, weapons raised high, their voices a thunder of rage. Kill him. Spill his blood before the bond takes root. Jace snatched up a fallen spear, spun it in his hands, and met the first attacker head-on. The alien was twice his size, swinging a blade that could cleave a truck in half. But Jace moved fast, ducking low, stabbing upward through the soft plates beneath its chin. The spear punched through skull and out the back. Blood sprayed hot and black. The corpse fell heavy at his feet. The high priestess was already moving, her twin blades carving silver arcs through the air. She was beautiful and terrifying, her body flowing like water, her swords flashing like lightning. Circle. She barked. The priestesses closed in around Jace, forming a wall of steel and glowing glyphs. Their blades sang as they clashed with the nobles' weapons. Sparks rained down like stars. The air shook with the clash of metal on metal, the screams of the dying echoing off the blood-soaked walls. Jace fought inside the circle, his chest heaving, his muscles screaming with every strike. He wasn't sure if he was protecting them, or they were protecting him, but either way, they were in this together now. Then the first explosion hit. The shockwave ripped through the chamber, hurling Jace against a pillar. Pain tore through his ribs as the world spun. Through the smoke, he saw the nobles had brought something worse than swords, pulse cannons. Blue fire cut across the room, melting stone, turning priestesses to ash in seconds. Down! The high priestess screamed, dragging Jace behind a shattered altar as a blast turned half the wall into molten slag. Jace coughed smoke, blood running down his arm. They're gonna burn this whole place down just to kill me. Her face was inches from his, her breath hot against his cheek. No, they're going to burn it down because you scare them more than fire. The words sank deep like knives. For the first time, Jace understood the truth. This wasn't just about the duel. It wasn't about law or pride. It was about fear. Fear of a human who had killed their god. The priestess rose before he could answer, her swords glowing white-hot. She leapt into the storm of gunfire with a cry that shook the hall. The other priestesses followed like silver. Shadows, their voices rising in an alien war hymn that made Jace's skin crawl. Jace knew he couldn't hide. He grabbed a fallen alien rifle and charged after them. The world turned into hell. Fire lit the air. Bodies fell like broken dolls. Blood ran in rivers down the marble steps. Jace moved on instinct: dodge, shoot, kill. Every time he thought they had pushed the nobles back, another wave came through the shattered gates. He saw one priestess impaled through the chest, her eyes wide with shock before they glazed over. Another was blown apart by a pulse blast, her scream cutting short in fire and bone. The bond didn't make them immortal, and still, they fought for him. Jace's throat burned as he ripped a blade from an enemy and drove it into another's spine. His arms shook, his body felt like lead, but he didn't stop. He COULDN single quotes to Dot then. In the middle of the carnage, he heard her voice cold, clear, unshaken. Jace, to me. He turned. The high priestess stood at the far end of the chamber, bathed in blood and fire, her swords dripping black. Behind her, a massive bronze door loomed ancient, sealed by glyphs that burned like suns. Through here, she shouted, cutting down. Another noble in a single strike. Now, human! Jace ran, his lungs on fire. The surviving priestesses fell back, covering his escape, their bodies shields of flesh and steel. Another explosion rocked the chamber as he reached her. She slammed her palm against the glyphs, chanting words that tasted like thunder in the air. The door split open with a sound like mountains breaking apart. Dot beyond was darkness. A tunnel carved from black stone, glowing faintly with alien light. Jace stumbled through, dragging his blood-soaked body past the threshold. The priestesses followed, one by one, until the last slipped inside. The door slammed shut, cutting off the fire and screams behind them. The silence was worse than the war. Jace leaned against the wall, chest heaving, sweat and blood dripping from his skin. What the hell was that? The high priestess turned to him, her face shadowed, her voice like cold iron. That human was only the beginning. Asterisk from the darkness ahead came a sound. Low, deep, like something breathing. And then The High Priestess said the words that froze Jace's blood. "We are not safe yet. The trial awaits." Asterisk, the sound in the dark wasn't an echo. It was a voice. "Bring him to me." Jace froze where he stood. The priestesses did too. Their glowing eyes flickered. Their bodies tensed like drawn bows. The voice came again, calm and cold, sliding over his skin like ice. "I have waited for this moment." And then, from the shadows, light bloomed. Soft at first, then burning bright, spilling over black stone like liquid gold. The tunnel widened into a vast chamber so grand it stole Jace's breath. Columns of obsidian rose into a sky of shimmering crystal. Waterfalls of light poured down from hovering orbs. And at the center, on a throne carved from a single block of star metal, sat the Empress of Vorin. She was not armored like her warriors, nor veiled like her priestesses. She wore flowing white silk that clung to her tall, perfect form like mist. Her skin shimmered faintly, alive with veins of gold that pulsed like a heartbeat. Her eyes cold, molten suns fixed on Jace as if he were prey. The High Priestess dropped to her knees instantly. So did the others, their heads bowed low. But Jace stayed on his feet. His body shook, his bloodied hands clenched, but he didn't kneel. The Empress smiled, slow, sharp. "So, the human stands." Her voice filled the hall without rising, as if the walls themselves carried her words. "They told me you were small, weak, yet you killed the god of war. And now," her gaze slid to the kneeling priestesses, "you wear the bond." Jace didn't answer. His throat was dry, his pulse a drumbeat in his ears. The Empress rose from her throne like a shadow stretching under light. She moved without sound, her bare feet gliding over the black floor as if gravity itself bent for her. She stopped just inches away, looking down at him with a smile that could melt steel or turn it to ice. "You know what you've done, human?" She whispered. "You've broken my empire." The words hit like a blade. Jace forced his voice through the storm. In his chest, "I didn't come here to break anything. I came for peace." Her laugh was soft, deadly. "Peace? After you spilled the blood of our god? After you bound the eternal order to your will? No, human, there is no peace now. Only power and death." She circled him like a predator, her silk brushing his shoulder like cold breath. "You have two choices," she said. "One, you give me your head. I end this farce, and your world burns. Two, you kneel. You take the throne beside mine. And together we rule a galaxy drenched in fire." The priestesses looked up sharply, their eyes glowing with something like fear. Jace's jaw tightened. "I'm not a king." "No," she purred, her golden eyes burning brighter. "You're worse. You're a symbol. The nobles whisper your name like a curse. The commoners speak it like a prayer. They saw you kill a god, Jace Carter. And in their eyes, you are one." Jace's stomach turned cold. He shook his head. "I don't want their throne. I don't want their worship." The Empress's smile vanished. Her voice turned to steel. "Then what do you want, human?" His answer was a growl, low and sharp. "I want my people safe." For the first time, her expression flickered, like a crack in perfect glass. Then her laugh rang out, echoing across the endless chamber like the toll of a bell. "Then you will fight for it," she said. She snapped her fingers. The floor trembled. The black stone split like bone under a blade. From the cracks rose pillars, and from the pillars rose beasts of metal and flesh, towering things with claws that dripped molten venom. Their eyes burned like suns, their mouths splitting wide in screams that shook the air. "The trial of dominion," the Empress said, her voice velvet and venom. "Survive this, and we speak again." Jace raised his weapon, his breath like fire in his lungs. The priestesses moved to his side without a word, their silver blades glowing white-hot. The first beast lunged with a roar that shattered the silence. Jace met it head-on, and as steel met flesh, as fire tore through the dark. A single thought burned in his mind. If I live through this, the galaxy will never forget my name. Asterisk, the Empress watched the chaos with a smile and whispered to herself, if he survives, I will make him mine. Asterisk, the first beast hit like a comet. Jace rolled aside as claws the size of swords tore the stone where he'd stood. Sparks and shards flew through the air. The monster roared a sound that shook his bones and made the walls shiver. It wasn't just big. It was alive and dead at the same time. Plates of black armor fused with flesh that pulsed with glowing. Veins, its jaws opened wide, dripping molten saliva that hissed as it hit the floor. And there were 3 more behind it. The priestesses moved first. Silver armor flashed like lightning as they fanned out in a deadly circle, their twin blades, glowing with ancient runes. Their war hymn rose again, a sound like storm winds and broken stars. Stay behind us. One shouted "JACE," spat blood, and gripped his weapon tighter. Not happening. He dove forward as the beast lunged again, rolling under its claw and driving his blade deep into the softer flesh near its joint. Black blood sprayed across his chest, burning like acid. Pain seared his skin, but he didn't stop. He ripped the blade free and moved again. The creature shrieked, twisting like a storm of blades. One swipe sent Jace crashing into a pillar. Stone cracked under the impact. His lungs screamed for air as the world spun. Through the haze, he saw 2 priestesses leap high, their glowing swords crossing mid-air as they slashed through the monster's throat. The beast fell with a thunderous crash, shaking the floor like an earthquake, but the others were already charging. The second beast slammed into the circle, scattering priestesses like dolls. Jace saw one smashed against the wall, her silver armor crumpling like foil. She didn't move again. Rage flared hot in his chest. Jace roared, hurling himself at the creature's back. He drove his blade deep between the plates, twisting until the monster howled in agony. It bucked and threw him like a rag doll, but before it could crush him, the High Priestess was there. She moved like a storm, her blades flashing arcs of silver, light as she sliced through the beast's tendons. It fell to its knees with a scream that shook the hall. Jace lunged forward and buried his sword in its skull, ending it in a spray of black blood. 2 down, 2 to go. The air was fire now, thick, with smoke, glowing runes flickering under the strain of the fight. Jace's arms ached, his vision blurred, but he pushed on. There was no time to think, no time to feel only kill or die. The third beast came from the shadows like a phantom, its tail whipping across the floor with enough force to shatter stone. Jace jumped, but not fast enough. The tail caught his leg and sent him sprawling. Pain exploded in his thigh. The creature lunged for the kill jaws wide, dripping fire, and then a blur of silver slammed into its face. The High Priestess. She didn't hesitate, didn't fear. Her blade drove deep into the beast's eye. It roared, thrashing like a hurricane, throwing her across the hall. But the strike blinded it long enough for Jace to rise. With a roar, he leapt onto its back, his muscles screaming. He jammed his blade into the beast's spine and drove it down, again and again, until bone cracked and black blood poured like rivers. The monster collapsed with a final shuddering scream. Jace slid off its back, drenched in blood, his chest heaving. His hands shook, his body broken, but he was still standing. The hall went silent. The last beast stood at the far end, its molten eyes locked on him. It stepped forward slowly, its claws dragging sparks across the stone. But before it could strike, a voice filled the chamber like a blade slicing the air. Enough. The Empress Dachi rose from her throne with a grace that froze the blood in his veins. Her white silk shimmered like living fire as she walked across the shattered floor, her golden eyes burning like suns. The beast lowered its head and backed away. Cowed by her presence, Jace stood there, bloodied, shaking, gripping his sword so hard his knuckles were white. His heart thundered as her shadow fell over him. "You live," she said softly, her voice dripping with something darker than admiration. "Not just live. You conquered the trial." Her fingers touched his cheek light as a whisper, cold as steel. "You are stronger than my warlords, stronger than my gods." Her eyes locked on his, glowing like molten gold. "And now, human, you will make your choice." The priestesses knelt in silence, their silver blades crossed before them. The bond between them burned like a living flame. Jace felt it in his bones. The Empress smiled, slow and sharp. "Rule beside me, or die before dawn." Before Jace could answer, a messenger stumbled into the hall, blood pouring from his mouth. His voice was a rasping whisper. "Empress, Earth has sent its fleet." The words hit Jace like a thunderclap. Earth has sent its fleet. The messenger collapsed in a pool of his own blood before finishing the sentence. Silence swallowed the hall. Even the monstrous beasts retreated into the shadows, as if sensing something far greater than claws and fire had just entered the game. The Empress didn't move for a long, breathless moment. Then she turned, slowly, her white silk trailing like mist across black stone. Her golden eyes fixed on Jace, glowing hotter than the suns beyond this world. "So," she whispered, her voice calm as a blade before the strike. "Your people. Bring their storm to my skies." Jace's heart pounded. If Earth's fleet was here, it meant they'd come to rescue him. Or to finish the war he'd been trying to stop. "Call them off," the Empress said softly, though her voice shook. The air like distant thunder. "Call them, or they will burn." Jace gripped his blood-stained blade tighter, forcing his voice through the storm in his chest. "If you touch them, if you harm a single human ship, I swear I'll tear this empire apart with my own hands." The Empress's lips curved in a slow, dangerous smile. "Oh, human," she murmured, stepping close until he could feel the cold fire of her presence. "You already did." Her words sank like ice. Jace looked around, shattered walls, the rivers of blood, the dead nobles, the fallen priestesses. He hadn't just killed a god. He had set an entire empire ablaze. The Empress raised her hand. The hall trembled as massive bronze doors opened behind her, revealing a sky of burning crimson and black. Beyond the horizon, through a vast energy dome, Jace saw them. Earth's fleet. Dozens of ships cutting through alien skies like steel. Predators, their hulls glowing with the fire of war. And above them her fleet. 1,000 warships, engines blazing like suns, weapons primed to rip the heavens apart. One wrong word, one wrong move, and the galaxy would drown in fire. The Empress's voice coiled around him like smoke. "This is your last breath of freedom. Jace Carter, take the throne beside me. Speak my name as your equal. Bind your people to my law, and I will spare their lives." Her golden eyes burned into his soul. "Refuse, and watch your home burn." The priestesses turned their faces toward him, their silver eyes glowing through the blood and ash. Their voices rose as one, not pleading, not commanding, but warning. "Choose champion. For if you fall, we fall too." Jace's chest tightened like iron bands. His vision blurred not from blood or smoke, but from the weight of the choice, crushing him like a mountain dog. Rule an empire that hated him, become the thing he swore never to be, or let Earth burn to keep his pride. The silence stretched until it was a living thing. Then Jace stepped forward. He dropped his blade. The clang rang like a bell of doom. The Empress's smile was cold and triumphant as she raised her hand to seal the vow. But before her fingers touched his skin, Jace spoke his, voice like steel tearing through the dark. "I'll take your throne," he said. "But not your chains." Her eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" He turned, his voice booming through the hall like thunder. "No more gods, no more masters. From this moment, your empire lives or dies under one law: freedom." The hall erupted in chaos. The nobles screamed from the shadows. The beasts roared. Even the priestesses froze, their breath catching like wind before a storm. The Empress's smile returned, slow, sharp, dangerous as a blade. "You dare defy me, even as you claim me?" Jace's jaw clenched. "I dare to change you." For a heartbeat, the world hung on the edge of war. Then the Empress laughed soft, cold, echoing like a song of death. But there was something else in it, too. Something sharp. Something new. She stepped close until her lips brushed his ear and whispered, "Very well, human. Let the stars bear witness." Her voice rose, carrying across the empire like fire on the wind. "The champion has spoken. The vow is sealed." Light exploded from the floor, searing through the runes, racing up the black pillars like rivers of molten gold. The priestesses fell to their knees, their voices joining in a thunderous hymn as power surged through the hall. The Empress turned back to him, her golden eyes blazing like suns ready to burn worlds. "You have bound yourself to me, Jace Carter, for life, for war, for eternity." And in that moment, as Earth's fleet and the Empress's armada faced each other across the crimson sky, Jace knew the truth. This was no victory. This was the beginning. JACE, Athens on the obsidian balcony, his blood-streaked armor gleaming under alien suns. Behind him, the priestesses kneel in silence. Beside him, the Empress smiles like a storm. And above, two armadas burn against the black a galaxy holding its breath for the war to come. "I didn't want a crown," Jace whispered. "But if it saves them, I'll wear it in blood." The end.